Thank you so much, ICNA Council for Social Justice, brothers and sisters who have made it possible for us. I am Dr. Asim Asad from South Florida, and my job is I am the national chair for ICNA Council for Social Justice. But I have to introduce, it's my great honor and pleasure, our own South Floridian Representative Christopher Benjamin, who was born and raised in Hollywood, Florida. Brother Benjamin worked as a door-to-door salesman for Miami Herald paper. Amazing, amazing life story. He got a bachelor's degree in political science and public administration from FMU, then JD from St. Thomas University. Brother Benjamin worked as an attorney in Miami-Dade County, 11th Judicial Circuit. He recently became the first Muslim elected to the Florida's legislature. Wow. As a representative in the House for Florida's 107th district, right here in Miami, where ICNA has a food pantry and has distributed food to hundreds of Americans in need during this COVID. When he's not bowling, fishing, or cheering Miami Dolphins, Brother Christopher seeks to give his life meaning through public service. Please give a very, very warm welcome to our own South Floridian Brother Christopher Benjamin. It's my honor and pleasure.
Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It is a pleasure to be with everyone here today and talk about race relations in America. It was good to hear the sermon, the last sermon of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I have referred to that sermon often in listening to or talking about Islam's approach to race and how indeed I agree with the brother who spoke that Islam's approach to race is indeed a gold standard with regards to race relations because it does not recognize any superiority of one race over another, and rather the focus of the worth of an individual is based upon his level of faith. And that is as it should be for the Muslim and all believers. And I also, it is interesting how we as Muslims always look at these issues in a very similar way, probably because of how we are indoctrinated into our faith. I often always look at the hadith of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam as it relates to how we should go about action when we see a wrong. You know, I quote often in social media the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's approach in that when we see an evil that we should do what we can to act out against it. And if we cannot act out against it, then we should speak out against it. And if we cannot speak out against it, then we should hate it in our hearts. And understanding that is the least of faith. And so that is often my approach to when I see injustices or when I see issues with regards to racial discrimination. I take the same approach that Malcolm X took during his life, in that I'm against every form of racism and segregation, every form of discrimination, because I believe in the human being and that all human beings should be respected regardless of their color, which goes to our Constitution, where it says that we are endowed with unalienable rights to this pursuit of happiness and life and liberty. And so this is how I have approached my public service. I have looked to be a voice for those who are voiceless, for those who may not be able to take action themselves, or who may not be able to voice their own concerns. It is interesting because as an American Black, I see racism maybe differently than some folks. And let's be honest, in Islam, although we have the Prophet ﷺ's last sermon, we still struggle with our own inner faith issue, our own inner struggles with regards to racism within our own deen. But be that as it may, I think that we as Americans have struggled with race for a very long time in this country. Some would say from the very beginning, as we have had to have different compromises within our republic as we have gone throughout our history, whether it be the 3/5 compromise with regards to how we count African Americans who are considered chattel, or how slave states and free states would be entered into our union. So from our inception as a country, we have dealt with the issue of racism. We as African Americans have had to deal with racism and how we approach law enforcement from the time that we were freed from slavery. It started way back when the laws were made for people to bring back captured slaves. And this began, many believe that this is what began as the first iteration of law enforcement for this country. And it had already began to be a disproportionate effect with regards to its impact on Blacks in this country. Then you would see in the South, you would see issues such as the vagrancy laws, and that you freed the slaves, and as Malcolm X said, but it was a freedom to starve. It was freedom to famine and to the winds and rains of the environment. So from its very beginning, the race relations in this country has been strained, and we have sought to ease these strained relation from ever since the American Black sought its freedom, and then sought our equal rights under the law. And we look at things still with regards to systematic racism or how our institutions have had a disproportionate impact on a certain group versus another group, such as jail sentencing, such as how one group is sentenced for the same crime versus how another group is sentenced for that crime. And so we in the legislature, for those who aspire to legislature, such as myself, we seek to make changes within the law, seeing that the law is the most expedient vehicle for change. Just as Malcolm X and just as Martin Luther King marched for our civil rights in hopes that the legislature of their time would make the necessary changes in the law to ensure that we had certain freedoms as everyone else, we now request certain changes within the law to ensure that everyone is not only equal, meaning that there's not just equality under the law, but we now seek equity under the law. It is not enough just to free everyone and to make everyone equal, but there has to be some undoing of the evils and injustices that occurred during the period in which things were not equal. And that is true justice. And it is that true justice that we seek as legislatures, as change agents, as Muslims who are speaking out for change, as Muslims who are actively involved with their hands in change. And so it is my hope as a state legislator that I can have an impact in creating laws that gives us not only just not only just equality under the law, but it gives us equity under the law. And inshallah, my colleagues in our legislature, our colleagues in the Congress will see that equity these days is the fight for justice, is the true social justice fight in this country now. And hopefully we will continue to march forward to true justice in our society, in our laws, and how we treat one another. Thank you. If anyone's talking, I can't hear anybody. don't know what happened to my volume.
You made us so proud. All of us right here in South Florida also are extremely happy. And we cannot express our, mashallah, happiness and joy how you have made us proud. But I know some of the people tell us that sometimes you say in your speech that you are a representative who happen to be Muslim.
Yes.
So, so, but Jazakallah and Alhamdulillah, we here want to work, and in your district, we have Alhamdulillah raised our voices through whether helping the people during COVID, distribution in the food of thousands of packages, or with food pantry, or raising our voices in Miami and the entire South Florida and throughout the country.
We've been a true community in that sense. We don't limit our charity and generosity to just Muslims. We make sure that our community is fed, that our community well-being is what's in the forefront of our charity. And it is why I say that, you know, I was a candidate who happened to be Muslim because my concerns were for the community. And so those concerns and my way of going about those concerns are often informed by my faith. And so, yes, I am a candidate for the people who happen to be Muslim.
So what would you say, now we still have a couple of minutes, what would you say to the youth that how can they be one of the other Christopher Benjamin while they are trying to be true to the religion and at the same time serve the community, and they have humble beginnings like yourself, and you have a exemplary life story, mashallah.
I would tell them to stay informed and stay involved in your community. Don't be blinded to the injustices, or do not be blinded to your own upbringing. Oftentimes we may have a more privileged upbringing, and so we may not see the struggles of others. Walk through life with your eyes wide open, and do as we are taught in our faith. And that is, when we see injustice, do something, say something. Don't like it. And remember that the thing that separates us all, be they Muslim or not, is how much faith do we have in He who created us, and walk in that faith.
Jazakallah khairan. So we're going to need you, and we expect, inshallah, to work with you in South Florida also, and throughout the country and the state of Florida, inshallah, the work of social justice which we have.
Inshallah.
Jazakallah khairan. Thank you so very much.
In order to bring about positive change, we must educate the public on the numerous injustices that are rampant in our society. At the Islamic Circle of North America's Council for Social Justice, or ICNA CSJ, we strongly believe that education leads to awareness, which in turn leads to change. From our 15 chapters across North America, we strive to systematically facilitate assertive Muslim involvement in the field of human struggle for the rights of the poor and oppressed in the United States. We have 7 focus areas: family breakdown, structural racism, global injustice, issues of hunger, poverty, and inequality, injustice to indigenous people, Islamophobia, and unjust immigration policies. We currently have a number of active projects running. The Stop School Bullying Initiative was started as a response to Muslim children experiencing bullying in the school system. Working with researchers, we have created anti-bullying workshops and a number of other online resources that students, parents, and teachers can use to educate and take action. The crisis in Kashmir has seen more than 100,000 people killed, among other human rights atrocities. We are working tirelessly to bring awareness to the situation through rallies, social media, and urging U.S. elected officials and the Senate to take action. Through our Muslim Prisoner Support Project, we ensure that Muslim inmates are given full rights and are treated in a civil manner, whilst also providing them access to prayer services and Islamic education. ICNA CSJ is a key player in facilitating the annual National Muslim Advocacy Day in Washington, D.C. This important initiative ensures that issues that affect American Muslim communities and our society in general are discussed and progressed through dialogue with local and federal governments. ICNA CSJ is a nonprofit organization that relies on donations from the public. None of this would be possible without your continuous generous support. We urge you to please donate so that we can continue to advocate for social justice and bring about positive change to the U.S. and beyond.
All right, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Ya ayyuhallazina amanu taqullaha wa qulu qawlan sadida. For attending this convention. This is a very exciting moment. We are going through very difficult time. Like many other Islamic gatherings, is a different way of approaching to all of you. But Alhamdulillah, we are blessed to have a team of volunteers, a team of dedicated workers, and leaders of Muslim community, including the 2 and 3 or 4 American Muslim representatives who are our pride, who are the people whom we take the pride to be our representative. As the newly elected president of Islamic Circle of North America, I'm going to talk a little bit. This option, ICNA, has a history of 5 decades of service and work and dedication. And Alhamdulillah, I always say that ICNA is a one-stop shop. People who wants to do dawah work, ICNA has all to the fold of Islam is the work which ICNA have done for the last 5 decades. Whether it's the work of tarbiyah, of educating American Muslims, the ILF and ICNA tarbiyah has done a phenomenal job. Whether it's the service of humanity, the core essence of our deen, Helping Hand USA and ICNA Relief have produced phenomenal results. Helping Hand, working in 51 different countries in the world, have served millions and millions. Those 19,000 orphans throughout the world, those hundreds and thousands of refugees, whether they are Somalia whether they are Kenya, whether Jordan, whether Lebanon, Rohingya. You just go every refugee camp, you will see the presence of American Muslims being represented by Helping Hand USA. During COVID-19, when the whole world was devoid of PPE, the basic support to help fight against this virus, the refugees were the people who were the most deprived, most underprivileged, and most marginalized. Helping Hand made sure that these marginalized and underprivileged population of Muslim world also get the benefit of those PPE and protection against this virus. ICNA Relief working in hundreds and hundreds of these cities, opening these 23 women's shelter homes, opening these numerous food pantries, serving more than 100,000 families only during this COVID time, have come up with some work which was so needed during this COVID time. Our free clinics have provided free medical consultation, and now we plan to provide those vaccinations. Those Feed the Hungry programs, those disaster relief programs, ICNA Relief is the forefront and the pride of American Muslims. If I keep going on, I may miss the introduction of a very important person who is going to talk to you next. This person whom I'm going to introduce is no stranger to American Muslims, and actually no stranger to Muslims across the world. This girl who migrated and fled her country at 8 years of age from Somalia and stayed in Kenya as a refugee because of the conditions in Somalia, came to United States in 1990, and where in 1990s, where her grandfather, who had a vision and who told her to get involved in politics. This is someone who have made us all proud. I was listening with my wife the last few minutes of election campaign when the most powerful man on the earth, the President of the United States, was giving his final words, final speech of election campaign in Michigan. What was he talking about? He was talking about a woman whom I think he was afraid of all 4 years of his presidency. But he was mentioning this Congresswoman repeatedly. He tried to mock her. He tried to make her feel bad. He tried to make fun of her faith. But guess what? This sister of Islam, this American Muslim woman made all us proud. She followed the guidelines of Islam, وَقَالَ إِنَّنِي مُسْلِمِينَ, that she stood up for her faith, she stood up for her beliefs, she stood up against the bullying of a very powerful man. And in the end, the powerful man and the bully is gone. But our sister, we are all proud of, is there. Congressman Ilhan Omar, who was elected in 2018 for the first time in the district, 5th district of Minnesota, then got re-elected again in 2020. She was the first Somali American woman to be elected to Congress. She was the first woman of color to represent Minnesota, and one of the first two Muslim women who represented American Muslims in the Congress. So please give a warm welcome, all prayers, all the praises for our sister who did so well. On behalf of ICNA, as the president of ICNA, I welcome you, sister, and I hope we will continue to support you, and I hope you will continue to be as brave as you have been, and may Allah bless you, Sister Ilhan Omar, for you.
Well, assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you so much, Dr. Ansari, and thank you to the Islamic Circle of North America for inviting me to talk with you all today. I wanted to give a special shout out to my sister and colleague, Sheila Jackson Lee. I know that if she hasn't already spoken, that she'll be gracing you with her presence as well. She has not only been an ally to me, but she's been ally to Muslims across this country. I am really excited to be here with you all. As Dr. Ansari said, we've all been through a lot with this president. We've seen an executive order banning the travel from countries of many of us where our families and friends are in, and myself specifically have been impacted, as I am a Somali and come from one of the countries that is on the Muslim ban. An administration that has emboldened white supremacists and made racist and Islamophobia be really sort of normalized and has gained confidence in our streets and in our public rhetoric. He's also peddled in foreign policy that has expanded the sales of weapons used to slaughter civilians in Yemen, that has enabled the Israeli government to move down a path towards the annexation of Palestine, a pandemic that has enabled a reckless president that has killed hundreds of thousands of Americans, including my own father. But despite all of this, the overwhelming emotion that I feel, and we should all be feeling, is one of pride. Pride in what our community has done in the face of so much hate and repression. Our community has stood tall and committed ourselves to increasing our civic engagement, not shying away from the public sphere. Every year in my home state of Minnesota, the Muslim community, specifically the Somali community that I come from, participates in our voting process in record numbers because we see it as part of our duty as members of a democratic society. We do this because we know that our experiment in democracy was founded on the idea that the oppressed and the afflicted from around the world could one day control their own destiny. That is the essence of American ideal, and that is what brought so many of us to its shores. This idea is very real for many of us, having experienced grave injustices to the extent of fleeing our own home. My family got through each day with the hope that one day, finding a better life for us and our loved ones. My father would hope aloud that we will one day have the possibility of free existence. He left me enamored by the mere concept of democratic participation. He cultivated my passion and a life dedicated to public service and the betterment of those without. And I clearly was not the only one compelled by this story. Nationwide, a staggering 95% of eligible Muslim voters voted in 2018. While we don't know the exact number yet, we know that Muslim voters turned out at the very highest numbers this year. 5 states, Colorado, Delaware, Florida, Oklahoma, and Wisconsin, elected their first Muslim elected officials in this cycle. Muslims' increased engagement in American politics is a sentiment of our resilience. The changing nature of political relationships to us is a testament of our collective power. You might remember a few years ago when a group of white men bombed the Dar al-Farouk Islamic Center in Bloomington, Minnesota. They did this explicitly to intimidate Muslims from voting. And the Muslims in Minnesota responded by having Muslims show up to vote in ways they've never done before. Last week, the man who was responsible, Michael Hari, was convicted and sentenced to 35 years for his crimes. I think 2 of the hundreds, maybe thousands of death threats I and my sister Rashida Tlaib receive on a regular basis. Yes, each one is disturbing, but we are never frightened, and we will never let them shut us up. And also this past week, the Supreme Court ruled that 3 Muslim men who were placed on a no-fly zone under President Obama, though they were not suspect of any crimes, had the right to sue the FBI for violating their civil rights. These are the products of shifting American landscape, one where Muslim Americans are not afraid to make their voices heard and use their communal power to make our community safer and more vibrant for everyone. This is not a period of doom and gloom. This is exactly when we should hold our heads up high and look to the future with optimism. Our story is fundamentally American story. This should make us proud. And our commitment to making change in our communities shouldn't stop with criminal justice or with politics. Our commitment to social justice remains clear too, as millions of Americans celebrate holidays graciously and with generosity. I want to remind all of you how important these qualities are for us too. Though we might not celebrate Christmas, our dedication to charity and to helping our fellow Americans should remain strong through this season. I'm reminded of the Muslim Americans in Minneapolis who partnered with us when the call went out for help during the opening months of the COVID-19 pandemic. They worked with us in delivering 20 tons of food and home goods in Minnesota to those in need. I'm reminded of the dozens of Muslims in my district who took time from their schedules to help register friends and neighbors to vote and help drive people to the polls, hundreds at a time who couldn't get there on their own. Because that means for us to be a good member of our faith, what it means for us to be American ourselves. It's our commitment not just to being strong within our own communities, but being part of the American community in itself. So I hope we remember this commitment throughout the next presidential administration and for years to come. And I want to leave you all with this quote because I remember it often. I remember what Martin Luther King Jr. said. We might have come on different ships, but we are all in the same boat now. Thank you so much. Thank you for your commitment to our community, to our country, to our society, to our democracy, and to those of us who make the sacrifice to serve you in elected office.
Thank you very much. Very good moment and proud moment for us to be part of this convention and the ICNA CSJ program, the organization for which we are all speaking. We stand under ICNA CSJ to support the one who did not have the voice, and all for last 6 to 8 months, ICNA CSJ has stood up to fight for the rights of those.
I would like to thank the Congresswoman for sharing her perspective and her time with ICNA today, as well as we pray that Allah grants her father the best in the Akhirah. And we also thank Dr. Mohsen Ansari and congratulate him on his recent election to be the president of ICNA, as well as the president of the USCMO for the next term, inshallah. I would now like to introduce our next speaker, who is Tahir Javed. Tahir Javed is a business magnate, investor, and a philanthropist. His success exemplifies the American dream. With little more than his instincts and the courage to follow them, he has developed a vertically integrated corporate enterprise across wholesale retail, healthcare services, real estate, and agricultural sectors that today employs thousands of people across the globe. Over the years, Tahir Javed has given back to his community with a myriad of initiatives for the benefit of the most vulnerable segments of society. Underscoring his passion for a more equitable and just society, Tahir Javed is an active member of the Democratic Party and a diligent defender of the U.S. and Pakistan relationship. With that, I ask him to take it from here to share a few words, as well as to introduce our next elected official joining us today to discuss race relations in America, inshallah.
All right. Assalamu alaikum. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. I think you may need to adjust your camera, Michelle.
I don't know how I can adjust that. It looks like upside down. Well, anyway, assalamu alaikum. Good evening. I really appreciate ICNA and its leadership, Dr. Mohsen Ansari, Zahid Bukhari Saab, Naeem Beg, Javed Siddiqui Saab, and Asam Asad for continuing doing these kind of programs to inspire all of us. The concept of social justice is the beating heart of Islam. Our faith teaches us compassion for the community, not just for our religious community, but all those in our neighborhood, in our cities, in our countries, and in our offices. Islam instructs us to treat all people equally without discrimination of race or gender. And where we witness inequality, it is our duty to condemn it without any hesitation. Unfortunately, we see a great deal of inequality in America today, particularly when it comes to race relations. According to the Pew Society, the most American believe it is a privilege to be a white in the United States. Then a minority racial group. And 58% people in America believe in much more common to hear racist views expressed in society. We have had decisive and hateful administration that is luckily on its way out, continue to amplify the dangerous rhetoric over the 4-year period. From the devastating Muslim ban, there were fine people while the supremacists marching in the Charlotte, Virginia. Donald Trump has done a terrifying amount of danger to race relations in this country. It has tarnished our image to the rest of the world. Luckily, we had people throughout the time continued speaking and kind of working against all these odds. I was surrogate for Hillary Clinton, and I have seen that forehand that the next 4 years we will have a lot of situation among the races in the country. When Donald Trump was taken oath, I was taken oath that I would spend my energy, time, and resources to prevent all what he is going to bring in this country. Well, majority of the time, my partner in this work was my dear friend, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee is an influential and forceful voice in DC. She is serving her 13th term as a congressperson from Congressional District 18, which is in Texas, and country in the heart of the energy capital. She is called Voice of Reason for several reasons. Whether it's supervising the reauthorization of the violence against women, or calling out Peter King for leading Islamophobic hearing, or supporting the Matthew Shepard or James Byrd Jr. Hate Crime Prevention Act, you can always expect the Congresswoman to be on the front line demanding justice for all. She worked closely with me on Congressional Pakistan Caucus, which we have brought to the level where the two countries' relationship is getting better every day. Apart from all, she has given so much opportunities to minorities and Muslims and Pakistani Americans in this country as her staffers, or getting them internship on the Hill as we ask her. She is being rated as the top 50 most effective lawmaker in this country. Before any delay, I would request my dear friend to speak to us and also discuss with us how she's working hard and trying to get as many Muslims in this next administration. Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee.
I believe the Congresswoman is still joining. So in the meantime, we're going to promote the CSJ video once more. And once she joins, we'll put it on screen, inshallah. And we apologize for the difficulties for a moment. And thank you, Brother Zahir Javed, for the beautiful remarks.
Since 1998, Why Islam has grown to become one of the world's leading educational resources on authentic Islam. Why Islam has developed several programs that provide accurate information about Islam while dispelling misconceptions and stereotypes. Over 10,000 hotline calls, 1.3 million annual visits to the Why Islam website, 500,000 likes on Facebook, 100,000 YouTube subscribers, 16.5 million views on YouTube, more than 300 shahadas a year, 20,000 free Qur'ans distributed, 500,000 brochures, information in multiple languages, hundreds of dawah booths and billboards across 50 cities. Tired of hearing stereotypes about Islam? Do your part in fighting Islamophobia. Donate today.
I'm
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As Allah says in Quran, let there rise among you from a group of people, inviting to all that is good, enjoining what is right and forbidding what is evil.
I love to hear that return of the salam that we need from one another consistently, because this sisterhood, this connection that we have with one another is what helps us get through day by day. It's what helps us get through with the ups and the downs and the craziness of life.
Exactly keeping this divine message and the responsibility of spreading this divine message, 6 pioneer sisters established ICNA Sisters Wing on 9th July 1978. It was established to create Islamic education and cultural awareness among Muslims and non-Muslim women alike.
The Sisters of ICNA are like family, and it's one of the few places where I feel safe in the Muslim community. I trust them, and I love them, and I want to really congratulate them for taking this next step.
Currently, close to 2,000 sisters members are working nationally to serve the community directly or indirectly. Give or take, 160 study circles are currently ongoing with 3,000 attendees. And uncountable outreach efforts are being done in a community near you, like Hijab Day event, Revert conferences, open mosque days, relief and dawah booths in bazaars, in libraries, and universities. Today, ICNA Sisters are proud to say that they are grassroots level organization. You can find us in every big city, online and on Facebook. We provide education and training skills to sisters who are interested in the comfort of their homes and communities. We have something for everyone. For sisters who love reading magazines, ICNA Sisters publishes Noor magazine in 2 languages.
You hear me? You're in the show. Okay. Hello, can you hear me?
Thank you so much for joining us. Please feel free to take it from here.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can
I'm
hear
on
you.
an airplane. You're coming through very challenging. Can hardly hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So I should go on?
Yes, ma'am. Please go ahead and start.
Okay. Well, As you can see, I'm in one of these vessels called the airplane, but I did not want to miss INCA. Dr. Assad, thank you so very much. Thank you, Mr. Zaved, and all of you who are there, and my dear friend who was on earlier, Ilhan, Omar. We are collaborators and working together on many issues. And of course, we are officers in the Congressional Progressive Caucus. But what that really means for a diverse America is that we believe everyone should be heard and everyone's voice should be heard. I have to thank you for the powerful voice of Muslims in the recent election. You absolutely made a difference, and your voices should be heard as we move into the 117th Congress and, of course, 2021. I'm a senior member of the House Judiciary Committee and a senior member on the Homeland Security Committee and Budget. Much of the work that's being done comes under our Budget Committee, and we work together. But I think one of the important strides that has to be overcome is racial injustice and structural racism. It impacts us all, from the Muslim ban to the various enhanced immigration policies that we had to suffer through the past administration. I believe that one of the first starts will be under my committee and judiciary as well. Homeland Security and Judiciary is a real comprehensive immigration policy that is fair to all countries. Then, of course, I think it is important that we eliminate completely the Muslim ban and particularly begin to work more strongly as a co-chair, as a chair and a founder of the Pakistan Caucus. I want us to be working strongly with Pakistan. I certainly want the administration to engage with Pakistan and Muslims around the world. My work involves criminal justice. And so I'll be working hard to pass the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act that is more than just encountering with police. It is talking about police and community and reimagining and dealing with giving the citizen respect and as well making sure that police have skills and have the resources, but the community can design a public safety structure. At the same time, it ends racial profiling, which confronts Muslims and others alike. It also encourages and it emphasizes some of the tactics that shouldn't be used, like chokehold and no-knock warrants. We could see that recently with the terrible situation that happened to a Black woman in Chicago who suffered a no-knock warrant. So the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act and legislation that I wish that you would help me pass, and that is H.R. 40. It is a commission to study and develop proposals for reparations. Finally, America should address the sinful act of slavery that has never been addressed and continues to impact the African American community. But I think the most important point of my legislative agenda is going to be to ensure that voices are heard and that legislation that deals with the growing positive relationship between the Muslim world and the United States is strengthened. I'm in a number of caucuses, many of whom represent Muslim communities, and therefore I will look forward to working with you to do so. Finally, let me thank you for your enormous charitable work, your work in Hurricane Harvey that we've suffered, your work with COVID-19, your work in dealing with testing and New Rights Land has been instrumental, but many of you have been instrumental in helping suffering people through this terrible pandemic. I just came from a holiday effort for children where we turned no child away, no matter who they were. And so I continue to stand with you to ensure that, one, there's justice, civil liberties, and civil rights, that Muslims stand equal in our community, and as well that their voices are heard in the new administration led by President-elect Joe Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris. Was a turn in American history that we want to make history. I think America is better than that. And I think we'll show that in the coming years. please count on me working and collaborating with my friend to engage in legislation that'll be constructive, eye-opening, and fair and just in a fair and just nation. Thank you all so very much for having me. I'm on my way back to Washington to engage in the final writing and final summary and final vote of COVID-19 and what we call the government spending bill to bring more dollars back to our cities and our counties, as well as to people who are suffering to survive COVID-19. I do want to say this. I did, because of the continuity of government and the numbers of members of Congress that have gotten COVID and been positive, they required us to take the COVID test. I took mine publicly because I want people who might be questioning. I know there are a lot of doctors here in the community, but I want everyone to know that this is the way that we're going to stop this terrible spread, and to take COVID-19, particularly in minority communities, Black and Hispanic communities. They must ease their fear and take the vaccine so we can get on the other side of COVID-19. Thank you all so very much for having me, and blessings be upon you.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson-Lee, for sharing your perspective and your time with ICNA today, despite your schedule changing. And we know it was a lot of work to make it to the airport and come here on short notice, so we appreciate that. And the commitment to this session is much appreciated on behalf of the community. So I hope you have a safe flight and that you have a successful journey in regards to the COVID relief package. So thank you so much.
I know you said kind words. Couldn't hear them, so I'll call you back to hear them some other time.
Awesome.
Could you hear me? Okay. Thank you. Take care now.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.